This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. I believe the first feature on the Stomping Ground for a man, one of my favourite people in boxing, Mr. Mark Neilson, the Cotswolds gaffer, but he's not in the Cotswolds today, he's in London. How are we, geez?
Yeah, we're good, Charlie. The boys repping the Cotswolds. Yeah, Stomping Ground, my debut. I'm honoured. KSI. One day I see on social media Mark Neilson from the Cotswolds the next, mate. You're just covering it all, aren't you?
That's what it's all about, my man. That's what it's all about. I suppose before we go straight into it, a weekend at Glastonbury. I'm very jealous of you, Mark, I must say. I know you enjoyed yourself there with the family and everything. Was it as good as it looked? And is that the one that I've got to tick off for the bucket list next year?
Yeah, you'd love it. I always go with a family, so my kids are teenagers as well, so you've got a bit of everything. Coldplay was just a massive event. Whether they're your cup of tea or not, their show is outstanding. 100 odd thousand people in the field, one experience. But then the next day, we managed to find a secret gig and had Fat Boy Slim in front of a few hundred people on a small stage. And then the kids give my teenage kids tequilas just before Fat Boy Slim. Yeah, that's how you do it, right?
Some life, eh? Some life. Get into it. Saturday night, you have a very, very cool concept that I've been a massive fan of for some time, and it feels like we've been talking about this for a long time. Finally goes into fruition. 10v10. I suppose maybe seeing the original success of the 5v5 when that was announced. And then you're the sort of first person that I think has probably got grips of this whole thing and gone, well, why don't we do this on a maybe smaller hall level? Now, the word that I'm not using small hall anymore, I'm going to call this medium hall because I think it definitely stands in a level above. Why and how have we got to this point going into Saturday night?
Well, it was what Frank and Eddie were doing was brilliant. Collaboration seems to be the buzzword of 2024, doesn't it? But I saw what they were doing. I think it was just sat on my sofa on a Sunday afternoon. I thought, do you know what? We could do that. And we work with other promoters and other managers. We've got good relationships with everyone. And I thought, why don't we do that? We not small, but like as you say, but we're the biggest, probably non-televised promoter out there, as in number of shows and the caliber and the crowds. And we reached out to the boys over at TM14. So they also do lots of shows at York Hall, and they do really good shows. So I reached out to them and said, hey boys, fancy doing a 10v10, us our boys versus yours. And we've got our stable of boxers, plus all the gyms and the managers that we work with, and they've got their own. So rather than us competing, I thought, why don't we work together and do a 10v10? They would said, straight away, yeah, 100%, we're in for that. And then we sort of met up the following week, sat around the table, and it was just like you made a sort of wish list. We sort of went through weight by weight. Right, who have you got it that way? And they gave us a list, and we said, well, we've got these. What about him versus him? And brilliant. It was just like a kid in a sweet shop. You're making your dream fights. Like, yeah, we don't have the money of Turk, but we've got all our contacts, all our London, all our southern contacts, and we start putting these brilliant dream fights together. And you know, some of the fights on there are really mouthwatering stuff, and this concept and enabled them to happen. We're streaming it live on Talksport, so we've got a big platform, big viewership, and it's a good opportunity for some of these guys. But the interest that we got from the boxers and the tickets, so we haven't been able to put any tickets on sale to the public because the boxers have taken them all. It's like 2,800 capacity, and the boxers have taken them all. And there's only like the odd little, 10, I think some 40 came back yesterday, but then they've reallocated to another boxer, and it's going to be a sellout. So it's obviously got some legs, isn't it? This concept, even on not even without the big budget of the TV.
Well, I think that in itself is sick because I've been to sort of your sort of broadcast level shows before, and here and there you've only got 1,000, 2,000 people in the venue depending on who's fighting. 2.8K at the O2 Indigo. That's a bit of a feat in itself, right?
Yeah, I mean it's our biggest show to date. It's pinch yourself moment for me. I remember it was only a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, we did our first show at York Hall when I thought, yeah, we're moving on nicely now. This feels great. I'm sat there at York Hall. Frank Warren's been there, Eddie Hearn's been there. They've all been there, haven't they? Wasserman there, they've all been there. And look at the names of the fighters that've been on them cards. And my name's on the top of the poster putting these shows on the York Hall. Now we've moved it on. York Hall isn't big enough. Where can we do it? What a great problem to have. And we're going the O2. We had the presser last month, and we had all our guys up on the roof doing photo shoots and stuff. which is funny in itself. Some of these big tough guys absolutely cacking themselves, gripping onto the wires for dear life, didn't want to look over the edge and stuff like that. But yeah, the concept seems to have worked. It's a cracking venue, biggest one we've done by far, and it's all holding together really nicely. Tickets are said are out, are gone. We've got big sponsors on board, working really well.
Obviously, a lot of people eager to see England, Switzerland in the quarterfinal. You're going to be streaming that as well and making sure that by the time that they leave on Saturday night, not only have they had their dosage of boxing, but that Euro fever can keep going as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So we've got that the England game live streamed on all the TV screens around the venue, and they're quite a lot, all of them behind the bar and dotted all over the place. So we're hoping, obviously, we're going to be finishing that game, everyone in good spirits, and carry on with the boxing. But even if they're a bit down in the dumps after a disappointing penalty shootout, which we hope it doesn't happen, there's some good fights to cheer it back up afterwards because we're saving the best till last.
Is this a statement of intent for you moving forward? And I think for like whenever I've always been speaking to you, it's probably been a matter of like innovation and finding that those sort of little 1% and the sort of smaller things that you can take forward and bring it with you. And I think I've certainly seen that as you've started to expand from a territory perspective over the last couple of years. Can we expect more of these sort of concepts, Mark?
Yeah, we're always trying to do something a bit different because you can't always just compete with everyone on budgets. Some people have got far bigger budgets, far bigger investors, and you can just do the best that you've got. You know what they call it, sweating your assets. So we've only got a certain amount of budget. So therefore, trying, like you said, those 1%, trying to do something different because you don't want to do the same thing time after time after time because people want to see something a bit different. So we've tried it. It's working. It's going to work. It's going to be a great show. We know that just from the lineup that we've got, and we're definitely going to probably run this out a couple of times a year. I was having chats with the team. Maybe we can do it again, run it again, but with some Midlands or Northern promoters. We could perhaps do one down here, South v North, and switch another one up there and put it in a Manchester or something in a North v South. That kind of thing. Just trying to keep things a little bit different. Some broadcasters interested in running that as a program. So we'll see. But we want to keep doing things different.
Mark, it's a no-brainer in terms of like people always want to watch well-matched fights, but me, if
Mm.
I'm being realistic, and working in the scene and seeing it sort of play out over the last 5, 6 years, I think there's maybe a little frustration perhaps within the media and maybe within fans as well that you go to some of these shows and it's pretty much all of the same. You know, you've got your prospect who's not got many knockouts, who's fighting someone with a losing record over
Yeah.
4 rounds. Obviously, with what you've got going on Saturday night, it forces these prospects to sort of the cream will rise to the top as such. Is that sort of more what you want to do? And let's match them tough because there's no need for hundreds of these sort of build-up fights as such where they're not really gaining much experience.
When everyone's having a debut or in their second fight, or their third fight, you're not going to put them in with a really good prospect because their career could be over. They might have a narrow points loss in their second fight, and then they're a 1-1, and their career could be over before they've even started. And they've got to make that transition from the amateurs to the pros, and that can take a few fights. So the journeymen have their place there to get these new prospects blooded. But when they're like 8, 9, 10 and 0, and they're still fighting journeymen, what's the point? We're not really interested in doing that. So we've got some on this card, or some lower down the sort of like running order. We'll have like a 3-0, 4-0 prospect against a 2-2 opponent. So we're going to throw them in quite sort of quickly, rather than pad them all out. And I think that's changed since COVID a lot. We're getting into a pattern of all the home fighters beating the away fighters with the, and if you're looking at the combined records on the A side and the B side of the running order, it's a bit embarrassing. There was hardly a win on the B side, was there? So those shows are still going on around the country, and good luck to all the other promoters who do their thing, but we're doing our thing, and that's not what we're doing.
Well, let's sort of talk about, I suppose, your vision moving forward because you talk about like talk sport being involved and broadcast.
Mm.
If I said to you, sort of 12 to 18 months down the line, where do you want Neilson boxing to be? Because I've seen it flourish in the last 12 to 18 months as a whole.
Yeah, well, we need a broadcast partner permanently. We've got Talksport on for this show. They've shown some interest and they're sort of talking to us about doing all our London shows, working with the boys over at TM14 as well. So that gives all our guys a platform. It's a really, they get some really good viewing numbers on that. But we want a good steady broadcast partner that we can work with and we can plot out the next 12, 24 months for our boxers and get them the eyes on their careers and sort of move up to the next steps. But of course, the landscape's changing, isn't it? I think YouTuber streaming boxing, Stomping Ground didn't exist, that long ago. DAZN didn't even exist that long ago. So it's changing. So we're just growing, we're improving, we're developing, we're making our product, if you want to call it that, better to watch, good, viewership for the fans, good value for money, good caliber fights, good production, not cutting any corners. And sooner or later, that's going to be on a big platform. That's going to have some, bigger budget. And, you give us a really big budget, like some of these TV platforms. Jesus, we think we can put on a card like this on Saturday without those huge budgets. Imagine what we can do with some big chunky figures.
Talk to me. What are the fights gripping your imagination come Saturday?
Well, the main event is the big one. You've got Joel Bartel, who's only turned pro, top amateur, he's only sort of turned pro recently. He's, fought 4 times last year, and stopping all of them. He's fighting Jordan Reynolds, who, as everyone knows, is really highly decorated amateur in an English Commonwealth eliminator, excuse me. And they're both undefeated. They're putting it both on the line on a show, on a main event like this. So we've got Lewis Roberts, who's like managed by us. He's fighting again for the Commonwealth silver, but also for the vacant English bantamweight title as well. And he's just on the cusp of, going on to British and European. And Lewis, obviously, because he's close to home for us. But we've got some cracking fights in a couple of other southern areas and eliminators. And our own Ollie Edwards is fighting Baz Oosterweigel. If you remember, he had that great fight with George Lydiard on that. And he was just toe to toe all the way to the end. And we got Ollie Edwards against him. So Ollie Edwards will hopefully look to beat him in a better fashion that George Lydiard did, and maybe set up a showdown later down the road. So the card's just full of some. It's difficult to pick them, but there's some big title fights on the top of the bill. They're going to be really tough to call. And I had a chat. It's 10v10, and me and the team had a little chat the other day. And we've got actually 10v10, but we've got a 12-fight card. We've got sort of a couple of fillers early on, sort of during the football and stuff. But we're on, we were trying to look at it neutrally, and we're on like 6, 6, and 6. It's tough to call them. If we actually look at them as a neutral fight fan, it's tough to call.
That's how
So,
you
which is
want it
great.
to be, though.
Huh?
That's how you want it to be, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're going to have a little scorecard on the screen as running through the night to see how it is. I mean, we've got this little running bet. I mean, we do a bit in the interviews, me and sort of John Chatturi from TM14 about who's going to win. But actually, even off screen, we have it constantly. There's banter going backwards and forwards about who's going to win, and it's actually close. But I think we're going to
You're
nick
going
it.
to win, Mark.
Yeah, of course I'm a winner. We always win.
I look forward to catching up. We might have to do an Eddie Hearn and play it off, even though you lose in a week's time. You never know.
I'm doing a Frank Smith though, serving tea and coffee all day. I won't be doing that.
Want to do that. I'm sure that's a site we don't have to put ourselves through. Let's talk about the world of boxing as a whole. Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois. I like the AJ I'm seeing at the minute, Mark. People are asking me my thoughts. I think for what he's done for the sport and the amount of shit that he's had off people, I would probably put my middle finger up to. Now, I'm not saying he's doing that as such, but I think we've probably got more of a bit of a bullish mentality from him, and certainly realised in my interview with him that it's probably not as friendly as it used to be as such. I've got no issues with that. How do you perceive it?
Well, I like it. I like his Ben Davidson. I liked that at the time. I think before that, he was just trying to. He's just, he's a thinking man, isn't he, Joshua? And I think he was trying to develop, to improve, to get better his boxing, and just trying to get better. But he moved away from what he was really good at, which was his power, his strength, his ruthlessness, his sort of menace, if you like. And that, and he sort of came up short. But Ben Davidson seems to have got his head right. He's got a lot of the tools to do the job. He's never going to be a slick boxer. He's never going to have the boxing ability of Usyk and stuff like that. But you don't have to be the best boxer in the ring on the night. You need to win the fight. That's it. Don't matter how. It can be dirty, it can be crude, it can be rough, ruthless, but your hand wants to be raised at the end. So, and he was trying to be a good boxer and a better boxer, and I don't think that did him any favors. Now, you're going to we've seen a different AJ, haven't we? And I think it's paying dividends for him. I mean, going in against someone like Dubois, Dubois I thought was done when Joe Joyce did it a few years ago. I thought, well, he's met his level. So he surprised me how he came back and how he did against Usyk and stuff
Frank
like that.
Warren's done
And
an excellent job on Daniel Dubois.
brilliant. I mean, we all know what Frank does with the boxers. He manages them really well, develops the matches them really well, and he's done a great job. Now he's a what is he? Is he actually IBF world champion now? How they manage that, good on him. But here you go. But credit to him, they've done it. He's now world champion. That fight, you would have thought that 12 months ago. That wouldn't have been that'd have been an AJ all day long. Even AJ
I
not.
remember less than a year ago, we spoke about the Usyk fight, down South Sunny Golf Club.
Yeah,
Man, what the hell? Like almost disbelief then.
yeah,
Here we are, and he's fighting AJ, and he's come off I suppose, a decent-ish performance against Usyk and a win against
yeah.
her.
Yeah, and it's a huge fight. He's earning some good money. He's world title. But what's going to happen now then? Are the winner of this going to have Usyk Fury for the undisputed? So I mean, it's all building quite nicely, isn't it? But that's going to be a great fight. I'm definitely going to be there at Wembley because Dubois. You're hearing the rumours, the sparring rumours that he wobbled AJ, but sparring, as we all know, you never know what's been going on during that session. If it was whatever, but. That's a tasty fight. We know Dubois got power. We know that AJ, if he gets caught, can get in trouble. But also we're seeing a new AJ at the moment. Great fight. It's an easy sell for Eddie and Frank, but it's really interesting, really exciting. What Turkey's done with the heavyweight scene has just been brilliant. It's just making these fights happen, removing all the broadcast and the promoter politics, and just making it happen. It's only good for boxing, only good for the fight fans.
Well, don't answer Usyk Fury yet, but if I were to say to you, hypothetically, we know that the pathway is for the winners to collide in sort of May 2025, which is actually less than a year away. We could see ourselves having an undisputed champion in less than a year.
Mm.
Right now, if AJ, the sort of newer AJ that we have, were to get in the ring with Fury or Usyk, how do you think he gets on?
I think Usyk still beats him. I think Usyk's too clever. I think he's bogeyman. I just don't think AJ, as good as he is, a lot of these world champions can be world champions depending on who they're fighting on the day. And if they were to take a different route in a different time, wouldn't be a world champion. AJ, I just don't think he's got what it takes to beat Usyk. That's no disrespect to AJ, because there's been a lot of world champions who are nowhere near as good as him. But I think Usyk's too good.
What about Tyson?
Tyson, I think, is deteriorating. I don't think it's the same Tyson Fury as it was a couple of years ago. And I think a couple of years ago, I don't think AJ would have been able to get to him. And it'd been like a Klitschko. It'd have frustrated him. His arms would have been everywhere. It wouldn't have got to him, and it had probably been a not very exciting points win for Tyson Fury. The Tyson Fury of today, I think, slipped a little bit. I don't think he's as good as he was. And AJ sort of going through a bit of a renaissance. It's a really interesting fight. So where I'd have said Fury all day long, now I'm not so sure because we've seen him get wobbled a few times now. We've seen him hurt, and he was always difficult to get caught. Now he's getting caught and he's getting hurt. He's had it with Wild, he's had it with 2-6. So I think it could be a different fight now. It would have been odds on for Fury before. Now it's probably 50-50 for me.
Okay. Okay. And then obviously we go into December, we have that rematch, all the marbles out in Riyadh. Will you be making a little Christmas trip to Riyadh?
Yes, yes. So yeah, I'm there. We can go and slowly come to the local restaurants and some of their delights. I'll take you
Love
out.
it.
We'll all go out. Charlie, take my boy out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have some of that.
What do we think in the rematch?
Same again for
Yeah.
me. Yeah. I don't see any different. I think, we did an interview a while ago, and I said I thought Usyk would be able to get to him. He'd be able to nullify the advantages he's got, and he'd get to him. And there were lots of comments saying, "Who the hell is this guy?" But I weren't using those words. Who the hell is he? What does he know about boxing? And then look what Usyk's done. So, and I just like him. I think he's great. He adapts to everyone in front of him, and he can get in it. I don't think, Fury isn't going to keep on improving. He is what he is, right? I don't think there's any different Fury going to come out with a different game plan next time. He is what he is, even if they get the corner sorted out, which I think was a bit of a mess, to be fair. But I do think Usyk can adapt to what's thrown at him, and I think Usyk will keep improving and keep adapting. He's just clever, just too good, too clever.
Does Big John Fury have to get out the corner?
Probably. I mean, if you were a different sort of, I think he's got too much influence. I think
Mm.
us neutrals would say that should be the case, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's too key to Tyson's camp, and maybe he needs to be there to keep Tyson's head straight. But when you're in the fight and you need to be talking tactics, you just need that sort of focus, that one person to tell you what's going on, not two different versions of things.
Are you enjoying the way boxing's going as a whole? Does it feel like it's in a bit of a resurgence as such, I suppose? And does it transcend onto the smaller hall stuff and some of the other stuff that you're putting on where you feel that there's a bit of a different spark and buzz around the sport?
Yeah, the money that's come into it is brilliant. It's like the when the Premiership started all many moons ago, how that changed the Premiership into this like best league in the world. It's a bit like that with boxing. You know, Turkey's bringing this all together, putting on massive fights, and it's going not just the ones who used to turn out for a big title fight. There's so many of them now that it's just it's taken some of the it's good and bad. It's taken some of the big fights away from the UK. So where we'd have seen them at Cardiff or at Wembley, they're now in the Middle East with 10,000 people instead of 80,000 people. So it has that, but the fights are happening. People are watching them. It's generating a load of interest in boxing. There's a lot of boxers turning pro. It's definitely going through a renaissance, and that can only be good for people involved in boxing, from everything from the boxer, the trainers, the managers, the promoters. It's a great time to be involved in it. Whenever I talk to people, you say you're a boxing promoter, great. They just want to talk about Fury, AJ, Usyk, the Middle East money, what the effect on the. Everyone's talking about it, and that hasn't always been the case.
Lastly, from me, moving forward, what's the rest of this year got in store for you?
Busy, busy. So we're going to get this big show out of the way on Saturday, biggest one we've ever done. Excuse me, and it's all eyes on that. Obviously, take probably a well-earned break, well, maybe for like a half a day off on Monday. You know how we are, and then back to it. But we've got like at least another half a dozen shows before the end of the year. We've got some big title fights. Some of my guys, because we've been managing for a few years now, not as many as some of these guys who've been around for a long, long time. So a lot of ours are people like Lewis Roberts, who's a 10-0 English title, just on the cusp of British and Commonwealth and Europeans, all that sort of stuff. So we've got a lot of our guys now who's just starting to step up into level. So the next sort of 6-12 months, really interesting for our shows, because we've got our boxers fighting for titles on our shows and then flipping over some of the big TV as well for some big money for them, in fairness, and some big opportunities. So it's really exciting 6 to 12 months.
That must be a proud feeling, that progression of fighters taking them from early and then guiding them to titles.
Well, it is. I've worked with Lewis Roberts, for example, since his debut. He's been with Paddy Fitzpatrick since he was 6 years old. I've got some footage of him on some pads and doing a little bit of sparring, and I was on a radio interview with him yesterday, so you feel like he's part of the family. And when he's winning and he keeps winning, obviously there's going to be bumps in the road. He knows that, we know that, but you are proud when he's getting his win, his hands being raised, and you're seeing him maturing as a man and as a fighter. And it's a bit, because he's just a young man, so it's like a bit of a proud dad to see him doing really well, and he's humble with it and respectful with it, and you just only wish him all the best. So yeah, it is a very proud feeling.
Well, Mark, some man for one man, Stomping Ground debut, first of many, I hope. And just a message from me to the people watching. I encourage everyone to tune in Saturday night on TalkSport YouTube live stream and watch Mark Neilson's 10v10 against TM14 because it is innovative, it is exciting, and it is what boxing needs. Mark, thank you ever so much for your time, mate. All the best come Saturday, and we look forward to catching up again very soon.
Thanks, mate.